Hey friends, welcome back. Episode 7.
Yep, the Canadian Rockies.
Oh baby.
Whilst this doesn't look like the Rockies,
Yes, we're sure.
we're inside.
That's it. Had a pretty incredible. I mean, that probably doesn't do it justice.
No, it doesn't.
Screen hand drawing. What are the Canadian Rockies for someone who doesn't know, hasn't heard of it?
Oh, it's a mountain range that stretches from way up high in the Yukon, near the Yukon in British Columbia, goes all the way down.
How far does it go down, by the way?
Well, the Canadian Rockies goes down until the border, but the actual Rocky Mountain range goes all the way down to New Mexico, which I found out and was impressed by.
Mm-hmm. And that was a good fact check we found out while we were actually recording a video for Flight Centre.
Yes.
Which has been a bit of fun. It's really nice to be on
fun.
Document and cram in some work and pleasure.
Yeah.
And that was just a small part of what we want to share in this recap this week. There's a lot of moving parts.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of 180 degrees. So I think that's where we might kick things off.
Yes.
Set the scene, set the context. What led to, one of the biggest pivots we've had this entire trip.
We had a point where we had to either say yes or no to the Flight Centre video, which I really wanted to do because, I've been to the Canadian Rockies. I knew how amazing it was and it's quite a special place. And I just thought, this is so epic to be able to be paid to essentially travel and explore and
share.
And
showcase, right?
And so I was like, I think you were on the same page. You really wanted to do it as well. Yeah. But we knew if we said yes to that, it was like we had to say, we're essentially saying no to something else, right? Because it's going to take a lot of our time. And I just this one night, I think it was was I pre-period as well?
Saturday or Sunday night. While we were fasting.
No, yeah, that's right. It was while we were fasting. It was that. I knew I was feeling off because, we decided to do a fast because we hadn't done one since the start of the year. We just do 48-hour fast.
Every quarter, yeah.
Well, yeah, it wasn't every...
Well, every biannual, it seems, yeah.
We aim for every quarter. Yeah. But so we were feeling shit. And I don't know if it was also I was feeling shit from the fast, but then I was we had time to we got to our house, regroup, been all right, this next part of our trip, which essentially was Canadian Rockies. And then we had initially planned to drive all the way over to the east.
Full send. To
go to Montreal and New York. Yeah. They were the two big hitters.
Yeah. Within the space of 1 week just to transit. Right?
Yeah.
To give you an idea, if you have a map of Canada or you can envision it, basically the east coast, east side of Canada, all the way to nearly the west side in less than a week.
Yeah. And so I sat down that night and just mapped out everything that we had to do before we got to Montreal / New York / also Burning Man. Yeah. And it was just a lot. And I knew that I could not manage it. I could. No. The thing is, I know I could manage it, but not at a stress-free state. It would go above that eustress.
Eustress to distress, yeah. And something that Maddy mentioned, she said as an intention we usually do kind of coming into a new year or reflecting on the year that's been, is you kind of have try a one-sentence theme or kind of a bit of a rule or guiding principle that we hold ourselves to. And something Maddy shared that has actually stuck with me is this is the year that we are shifting our focus towards working smarter and not harder. We don't downplay the value of hard work. We agree that there's a time to apply pressure and operations and execution, but more importantly is alignment. And it's spending more time being is this the optimal decision or are we blind to the other choices that we have? And we're used to just choosing the brute force approach, like Maddy would say, because we're familiar with that. And I think a lot of hard workers kind of mindset can often breed that. And I'm really grateful that she actually listened to her intuition, wrote everything down, and then came to me feeling quite overwhelmed because that was a very big
Well, yeah, the thing was I felt overwhelmed, but then I was no. Because often feelings aren't actually are temporary. Yeah. So I was this could just be because I'm fasting. So I actually wrote things down and mapped out how much time we had and and also I've learned we always underestimate how much time things take for us. So I was okay, well, knowing that this is going to take even longer. And I'm already feeling if I don't underestimate it, it's not going to happen. So then of course it's just not going to work and we're going to feel really stressed out.
Yeah. So I can recall on that Sunday, that was probably peak fasting. We'd started on like Saturday evening, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And by Sunday night, it was the full 24 hours had gone. So by now your stomach's probably processed all the last remnants of food you had. You're running on empty. Your cognitive tank is down. We probably weren't having enough salt and enough water or whatnot. I think we reflected.
I was dehydrated.
Yeah. And we'd both kind of like been working, I think, throughout the day. So maybe mentally we were exhausting a bit of energy. I was like doing some editing and stuff. You were planning some stuff. And then like Flight said to hit us with an email to be like, oh yeah, we'd actually love you to do the Rockies video. And then you got into research mode and it got late at night. And then like Maddy like lovingly like carved some time out and was just like, I want to share, I want to talk. I'm like, I'm feeling a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that she'd gone through this whole process of like putting things down and realizing that we were kind of a bit messed up on our schedule. And the line that she said was, one of the lines that she said was, less is usually the answer. And for like operator types like us, that is so true. And I have to keep regrounding myself with that. And I'm really grateful you.
And in my head that whole time I was thinking like, well, how can we, what's the alternative? How can we like fix this? Because I just felt really overwhelmed with this like 5 days road trip / huge distance that we had to cover in the van. And that meant 5 days that we couldn't spend working. And then let alone that, but also another 5 days back across to Burning
To the
Man.
States,
Which was was that even bigger road trip?
It wouldn't have been 5 days. It would have been over a little bit of a longer period.
Yeah.
But yeah, the same.
And also like, I guess I've been to the States, but I've never been to those states before. And I've never known what it's like driving. So I guess there was a bit of uncertainty for me feeling, safety wise and just like, I don't know. Yeah. I just had a bit of unknowns around that. So that created a little bit of fear.
Sometimes. Yeah. And that is why sometimes it breaks my heart, but it often takes you to be either at a rock bottom or feel like your back's against the wall for like a higher mind or for people to tap into their creative facilities to think of like a new, different way. And that was an example of us doing it reactively. Ideally, you do this proactively and you actually ask the questions up front, like, what are the choices? What are the alternatives? And lo and behold, two people who are somewhat sharp, let's say, have something between our ears, could put our creative forces together and over the next 24 hours kind of like opened up.
Totally repivoted.
And totally pivoted by just asking the question, like, and this is, I think, Seth Godin and this is Tim Ferriss, and there's so many people that use this phrase, and Greg McEwen, but it's like, how would this look easy? Like, how would this look effortless? If we were to find a non-stress brute force approach. And it was like, well, we could fly.
I literally just said to Dan, I was like, okay, so the thing that I'm like feeling the most anxiety about is the road trip. So why don't we just fly?
And it was just like, ding, it's opened everything up.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like we can't
And also then we did the numbers. We were like, shit, a flight is cheaper than paying for probably the multiple fuel tanks.
And the value of our time of just driving. It would have been, for reference, probably about minimum 12-hour days of driving split between us, maybe with a break in between, versus a 3 to 4 hour flight that cost, $400 one way and the peace of mind of just having it done. And it seems stupid that we're now saying this out loud, but like us in a famined, half brain cell capacity didn't get there until, we kind of had this moment.
Like a week or two out from.
Yeah, that we could have planned in advance.
No, but we aren't planning well in advance though. So, we got to cut ourselves some slack there.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And that was one of those ones where it was like, it was a back burner thought. And we just kept saying, we're going to drive, but we'll deal with it shorter, like closer to the date. And then that date came and then you were like, this is insane. I'm glad you raised that flag for us. So we booked flights. We were so grateful that we have friends or family. Maddy has family friends in Calgary that could then host our van. And it's this realization that only until you kind of break through and have this different, more creative solution, then we could find solutions for all the other things. We were like, where are we going to store the van? Oh, maybe we can ask his family friends. Okay, what flights are available? All right, we can fly out of Calgary. Like we just could start solving all these other things that were quite easy. And I don't know about the relief you felt or how you can describe it, but just how that opened up the week to then allow us to then say yes to the flight center video.
We
just sat with it and we were like,
planned it, the alternate plan instead of road tripping across Canada. We were like, oh my God, this is such a better option because we were like, we're only actually going over to the east for like 2.5, 3 weeks. Yeah. And we're like doing all this driving.
Half that time driving.
Yeah. And I was like, why don't we just fly? And then also, as we've come to learn, Montreal and New York are not the cities where you want to have a big camper van car.
With all your valuables parked with everything inside or outside.
So we're so happy with our decision. And it also has given us a break from van life, which we so needed.
100%.
Because, we got into a bit of a rough. Should we go into that?
I think so.
Got into a bit of a rough spot.
And I think that was a sign. That was a leading signal, leading indicator to say, maybe van life is pinching us a little bit. And it was time to find another way.
Yeah.
So yes, now that we've resolved that, and we'll be on our way to Montreal, with some flights. There was a series of experiences we had, as Maddy said, while we were in transit from the Canadian Rockies, where we recorded some content for Flight Centre. So we got across to Banff, we got across to Lake Louise, all these beautiful spots. I might chuck them on the screen right now. But then made our way to Calgary, where we are right now, and we've been able to spend some time with some family friends. So I don't know if really we just got to dive into the hairy.
Basically, we alluded in the last video, if any of you watched it, but we had an incident with some mosquitoes. Well, we had another incident with more mosquitoes in the van. We pulled up to this free camping spot. There was heaps of other people there as well. But it was 9:30, so it was just getting dark. And I got out because I needed to do a wee.
Yeah.
And the mozzies.
No joke. Maddy had the door open for less than 4 seconds.
Yeah. The lights were on in the van. I think that's where we went wrong. But we didn't know how bad these mozzies were going to be. And I opened the door and literally, hundreds came down and probably 50 to 60 got in the van easily. Yeah. And so then, because Dan fucking hates the mozzies and he's the mozzie
They love
man.
me. A lot of carbon dioxide emitter right here. All right, public enemy.
Yeah, they seem to go for him more than me.
Yeah. Aren't you lucky?
Yeah.
But I do bring them in, unfortunately. When we're sharing a space together and I'm the Aussie magnet, that's not
They
great.
just
So
came straight in. We spent hours trying to kill them.
Insert footage here.
Because we now realize we need one of those mosquito traps. Them, attracts them and kills them. But we didn't have that. So
we're there.
Hands
clapping, snapping away, very sore at the end of a couple hours. That literally had a graveyard of mosquitoes lined up on some toilet paper. And I think off the back of it's been particularly hot. It's been summer right now.
Very hot.
So the van's
very
airflow
stuffy.
isn't phenomenal. No. It's okay. There's only really one door you can kind of open up that has a mosquito net. But even then, there was still so many mosquitoes that were still coming through, and we figured would find this tiny
hole in our mosquito net.
They're going to figure that out in no time.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we closed the doors. Didn't even have the windows open. Had these.
So I'm right near the window. Don't get any fan air, and it's so stuffy. And we only have we don't have a sheet. We've got this doona, which is way too hot at the moment. And so then it took me 2 hours into trying to go to sleep to realize that we could just take the doona out and use the cover. But anyway, I got there.
Yeah, we got there. Yeah.
And then, so we closed up the van totally because of the mozzie issue. But then we were so hot and stuffy. And we also hadn't had a shower.
Yeah.
And smells were wasn't that bad, but it was, when it's stuffy, I'm very sensitive to smells, and it all just got a bit much.
And then to add to that, while we conceded that no matter how many mosquitoes we'd swat, we had to go to sleep eventually, maybe 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. We both went to sleep, spent the entire night scratching. I woke up hearing her scratching, she woke up hearing me scratching. Then we just violently woken up at 5 or 6 o'clock. Right, 6 a.m. just massively underslept, and it was just F this moment. Sorry,
we both barely said anything to each other. I was just bro, let's just get out of there. And we just jumped in the front,
dreary-eyed, pajamas on, got in the front. We
did not even leave the car for a morning wee or anything.
No, we just wanted to get out, just take whatever mosquitoes wanted to come along for a free road trip.
There was so many. We finally got to Calgary, and I was suckers, boys. You're now in the big smoke.
And that was suckers, boys. Literally downtown Calgary, exactly. We're now underslept, a little bit cranky, about to have a work day. So part of us being digital nomads and having this working holiday where the holiday is the work and vice versa. was we pull up in WeWorks, which if you haven't heard, they're like, franchise of co-working spaces across the world. Really good. You buy a day access pass, perfect for Maddy and me. Just get stuck in high-speed internet. They didn't have a shower like we were hoping. They have an all-access pass, and Maddy was like banking on that. Like, and I
we
kind
packed all our shower stuff in.
And I knew I researched they did have a shower, but it's only for like a monthly access member. I don't think they access to the day passes. So we got in, and I felt the disappointment in Maddy's body when the concierge was like, "It's not available for you guys." And it was just this. You had to get creative. And we looked somewhat professional because we had like professional carry gear and we looked good, but like there's no way.
We're like 2 days without showers.
We just slummed it without a shower, had like 3-4 hours of sleep. Your aura and my Garmin said like it was just the pits in terms of sleep, super shallow. And yeah, that kind of, I think the phrase that we used leading
so
up
we
to
made do
like,
with a face wash.
a little face wash, and someone stuck their feet into the sink before. I didn't see it. That's what she told me.
You're airing my dirty laundry here.
Oh my god, that's so good for you. I did a full change. It's got to be done. Sometimes you got to rise above it. And we stumbled into the workday, and that's kind of I think the kind of the pre-frame of the anecdote we have from this experience. So that was the backstop. Mosquito Man again, part 2. But then we launched into the day, underslept, a little bit cranky. It was just a bit one of those days where it's like. You're just in survival mode. We weren't in sync. We weren't like catching up with each other. We weren't checking in with each other. We had the whole day we work planned, and I knew I had a ton of client work that I just had to get through. And so for me, what I'm trying to get better at communicating is indicating like when I'm locked in, I'm like locked in. And it doesn't mean that I don't care or don't have time for things that Maddy wants to share, but it means like I have this little window when I have all the facilities, my whole laptop set up, high-speed internet and Wi-Fi, and it's good. It's like Parkinson's law. It goes like, Dan, you've got like 8 hours or 7 hours to get arguably a week's worth of work in before van life to squeeze it in. I didn't share that and communicate that with Maddy. I assume she knew it. She later then shared that she kind of knew it, but I think I completely fudged and missed the chance to like just reset and recalibrate, especially after what we just gone through the last 24 hours. So that's kind of probably the first like flag.
And I guess like, and I'm probably not used to like how much you do need to like lock in. And like I've worked in very not social but like communal environments. Like I previously job shared with another person, so like I don't know, I'm used to like working in like, and I'm a very big like conversationalist with projects or work or whatever. So like I was just naturally like trying to talk to Dan about certain things, or like can you send me this video or whatever, whatever it is. But yeah, not acknowledging that like, or I didn't, like I know his work's important, and I know how like crazy, it can get and how much you do need to lock in, but it didn't like, I guess I didn't think, today's one of those days. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And that's why it takes two to tango on this, because towards the tail end of the day, while it wasn't life or death urgent, we'd booked in like an all-day parking slot for our van just downtown that was housing the Mozzies that came on the road trip until about 7 o'clock. And it was probably nearing about like just coming up to 6 o'clock. And in my mind, I had potentially a range of about half an hour to 45 minutes worth of outstanding work, like I ballpark in ranges. I was closing out a few emails, sending through a deliverable, getting something ready for approval, so I could just leave it in the hands of my clients. We could then go travel and do our thing over the next few days, and I could kind of like not worry about it. So it was really important for me to like close out those tasks and not leave them lingering, so that like, maybe later that night I open my laptop again and do it. I just like to close the loop and then be able to move on with what Maddy and I have planned. So Maddy, I think, fairly like gauged and asked kind of like, what time am I thinking of wrapping up? And I mistakenly, I think I said either I'm aiming for 6:30 or I said something around the 6:30 range.
6:45.
Or 6:45, yeah, exactly. Like aiming for 6:45, or maybe it had changed, and I was very vague with it. And I think the way that I'd communicated it meant that I was like, it won't be exactly 6:45. It's sometimes like, how long's a piece of string? And I'm like, it's until I get the work done. And that might take a little bit of time over. But if I can kind of hand over to you, what did you asking and prompting me represent to you? Like, what were you actually?
Yeah, well, I failed to, I guess, say how like it was important to me that we do honor like, our parking time, and but not really because of that's when we paid up to, but more so because I knew like if we're only getting to the car at 7 p.m, by the time we like go and find a place to shower, go and get groceries, go and cook dinner, we were already underslept.
Yeah.
So like I was like really tired and really hungry already at 6:30 when I messaged you. And I didn't, I guess, convey like that importance of what it was like in my mind that we actually like kind of keep that in mind for like leaving this WeWork. I just had like vaguely asked you what time are you thinking of wrapping up, which, you know, it didn't convey what it meant to me.
Yeah.
And so there was like this miscommunication essentially. But when Dan replied, aiming for 6:45, I kind of was like, in my head, I was like, okay, we're not going to make it back to the parking by 7 because I know that, you know, it takes,
enough time
takes 15 minutes for you to pack up. Yeah.
All this stuff.
Yeah. And I guess I was just kind of like, but I also know how important Dan's work was. So I didn't want to like maybe like speak my side of it and be like, hey, like just to keep in mind, like I am really hungry. And I know when I get hungry, I get like short, snappy and like not super pleasant to be around. So
Totally fair.
yeah, it was basically just like a miscommunication because then I felt like, you know, when you weren't ready at 6:45 and it pushed out and then we had to like pay for more parking and then we just like were very late getting to like eat and get to bed. So I just felt like it was a bit of a violation of like not violation, but it was pushing up on my boundaries. Yeah. Or my priorities. 100%. Yeah.
And both of us had come to realize later on when we were a bit more fed and slept and whatnot and could actually reflect on it was like both priorities were super valid.
Yeah.
And they were very, very important for both of us. Like Maddy has, you know, beautifully taken up more of a role of like concerning our housing, our food, that kind of well-being. On my side at the moment, absolutely. It's a lot more of like managing the clients so that like the flow of work can continue and so that we keep those projects moving on, which is like two things that we're both very good at and that we have
natural strength,
and we have a social contract around like that has been spoken about. What we didn't do, and this is why I flagged way at the start of the day, is that like this could have been a 1-minute conversation, and like if you're watching this, like it takes just having the conversation to probably solve 99% of the challenges we have in life when it comes to relationships and communication.
Yeah, like once we like enter a good rule that we've like tried to adopt, we're getting better is like when we enter like a new environment or like we leave a place and go to a new place is like regrouping and just being like, where are we both at? Right. What's important for today? What do you need? What do I need? And just like recapping and pre-framing.
And just synchronizing again. Yeah. Because things change between situations.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go to, you know, I could speak to the sun goes down about all these times when we have had verbal agreements, but then there's been like 24 hours or 48 hours that has happened between something we both agreed to, but like there's a million things going on in your mind. So like we forget things. It's not like personal. It's just like synchronizing again. So you're on the same page. And that could have happened when we walked down, sat down, had all of our gear, grabbed a little coffee and just said, all right, what's happening today? What time do we want to leave? What are you focusing on? What am I focusing on? How can we help each other achieve that? And for me, I could have said, hey, boo, like this is the kind of day where like I'm just going to look like a robot and I'm going to be like, my hand's going to be connected to the keyboard and that's what I'm doing until 6:30. And then Maddy kind of says, right, well, if we want to reverse engineer getting a shower, getting food, getting groceries, me knowing that's important, then like I can then set a hard date or hard time and Maddy doesn't have to like indirectly ask closer to the time, but she can actually hold me to what we agreed to and I can hold myself to my own word, which is something that I identified. So I think a big takeaway is like, and a recurring theme in a lot of travels is like pre-framing. And because we keep changing our environments, the situation, the projects and people so often.
And energy.
It's like that pre-frame is I think a big growth area for us together. It's great.
Just reconnecting.
And just reconnecting, because someone might forget the other person's there to check in. And I just don't think you can ever over communicate things like that.
No.
Personal priorities and what matters. And giving the other person a chance to share.
Yeah.
So we got there in the end.
We did.
And we took a lesson from it. And, you know, we're here to share the scar and not the wound. And also a bit of accountability that I hope we can reflect on this and say that we've incorporated more of it going forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we ended up having a shower at a local swimming pool, cooking up an absolute banger of a dinner in a car park, having no mosquitoes that night and more of a peaceful
sleep. What did we have for dinner that night?
You had a salmonitis steak.
That's right, with the refried beans and salad.
Refried beans. You want to give it a little quick 30-second shout out? You don't want to?
If you know what refried beans are, then you know the value.
Oh yeah, done. Simple. Enough for that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And then kind of like bringing things to a landing. I think this has been like a beautiful reflection we've had with, you know, talking about this idea of our partner being a significant point of connection during van life. And if there's something you might be thinking about, or, you know, you have a partner yourself, it is important to be able to like introduce or incorporate other points of connection that aren't just like those shallow transient, oh, you meet them at a bar, you say hello. But we found that through Trusted House Sitters, it has been a real breath of fresh air and really, really nice just to like have another, you know, party or parties play into our energy and to inspire us and to give us new perspectives. Otherwise, we just feel like we're kind of stuck in our own
little bubble.
Yeah, little bubble sometimes. What have you thought or found from some of the you know, hosts that we've been able to stay with, and how do you feel they've kind of shaped our energy?
I mean, we were just speaking about how they, like Trusted House Sitters attracts a certain type of person or people or family, whatever it is. And they are always just such interesting people or so inspiring to see the lives that they're living. Because I think, you know, the reciprocal nature of the platform, it's not going to attract someone who wants to like pay for like really top quality care or like have really high expectations. It's actually more like they genuinely enjoy meeting other people through us coming into their house and like getting to know them and their pets, and, you know, I think forming a relationship with them because we're always in communication with them, like, you know, telling them updates about their pets. And so I think it's just been such a nice experience to meet these kind of people.
Yeah, definitely right.
Yeah. And they're often older. Oh, not always. Some have been our age, but the majority have been older couples who, you know, have lived a lot.
Yeah.
And have a lot of wisdom.
And are still living.
Yes.
Like that are their age. Like they're
because they're going away to travel.
That's more often it. Yeah. Cool stuff.
Yeah. So it's just been really refreshing. And we were saying like we don't feel like we've been lonely or missing home because like they provide us a bit of like, like love and home comforts and welcoming and hospitality and just like generosity. So it's been super nice.
Yeah. And in like, I'd say nearly every instance where there's been a really meaningful connection, there's been a genuine, you know, offer to say like, if
come
you
back,
want to come back.
Yeah.
Like even outside of the platform, even at that point, it's like, if you need to stop over for a night, park for a night, if something goes wrong, you need to return, you need to post something to a location that you can get to. You know, it's always been really, really
like sign, one of the hosts like messaged me the other day after I posted something on Instagram being like, we wish you had have stayed for longer. We would have loved to have gotten to know you better, and like, you know, you're welcome back anytime, which was just like, so nice.
It's like such a beautiful,
investment.
And I don't think that would happen in more of a transactional nature.
No.
I mean, like, you know, you don't have Airbnb hosts being like, oh, like you would come back and stay in my place, you know? No. So it's been really nice. So yeah, just like if you're someone who can get homesick or have a tendency, like, you know, obviously we've got technology that lets us FaceTime and text our family back home. But honestly, like I think home is like the feeling of home is like being around people that make you feel like it is home. It's not necessarily just like a structure or a building or a property or an apartment. But that kind of warmth where in, you know, our instances, we'd sometimes like cook for the hosts if they come back just to, you know,
as a nice
kind of gesture. And that's where you create a really, really beautiful connection. So I think we might wrap it up there.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of the top ones for last week or so.
Yeah.
But keeping it real.
Yeah.
Keeping it raw.
Having a shower every night.
Unbelievable. So for reference, we're going to be, we've booked an Airbnb in Montreal. We decided this is a non-van life,
non-house and not house sitting
time for us. This actually feels like we've been doing
holiday.
this for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we're on holiday.
Yeah. Yes. Even though people are like, what the hell? You're always like, you're traveling, you're on holiday, but like, we're not. It's different.
There's a difference.
This is a proper holiday.
When you travel, you're planning your logistics.
Yeah.
When you're on holiday, it's like that's taken care.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest issue is like, what are we going to have?
Where are we going to eat
tonight?
Yeah. What yummy food are we going to have?
Yeah. So yes, a little recharge for ourselves.
Yeah.
And we'll see you
ahead of our New York house sit.
Beautiful. You know, we dropped a little teaser, but there you go. We'll be heading to New York shortly. But yes, next week we'll be giving you an insight and a look back on how our week in Montreal has been.
Yeah.
So if you've come this far, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
I love you and leave you. Bye.
Bye.